explain his decision to the chamber. In the letter read on the floor, Senator Katsung attributed his exit from the PDP to what he described as deepening divisions, factionalizations, and unresolved leadership crisis within the party. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) in Edo State has again criticized the administration of Governor Monday Okpebholo over alleged misappropriation of funds from the federal allocation. The state chairman of the party, Anthony Osigwe, made the allegation during the PDP's end-of-year briefing at the party secretariat in Benin City, the Edo State capital. According to him, revenue accruing to Edo State has increased significantly compared to the previous administration, but he claims there is little to show for it in terms of projects and service delivery. Mr. Osigwe also alleged that the state government has continued to receive local government funds from the federal allocation despite the absence of elected council chairman in the state. The African Democratic Congress ADC in Gombe State says it is championing a movement tagged New Movement to give Nigerians an option in 2027 against the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, despite the multiple stumbling blocks placed in its path by external forces. Speaking with journalists in Gombe, the governorship candidate in the 2023 general elections, Mr. Jibrin Barde, reveals ADC's plans to unseat the Tinubu-led government due to the economic woes, insecurity, and dearth of infrastructure that the country has succumbed to since APC came into power in 2023. Dispelling rumors of factionalization within the Gombe State ADC, Mr. Barde also disclosed that the party has officially communicated its schedule of activities ahead of the 2027 general polls.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So on the street of Abuja today, we're seeing NLC-led protests on the issue of security. Protesters are on the street protesting that the government of the day should protect the lives and property of Nigerians. And they were in their numbers after they had a meeting at their headquarters in Abuja. We understand that there was a meeting held yesterday with the president, but today we saw the protesters taken to the streets in protest of what they describe as an unbearable situation of insecurity in Nigeria. Let me allow you to listen to the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajaero.
Mr. President agreed that the entire National Executive Council of the NLC will have a meeting with him, I think so, NAC of NLC by January, so that all those issues will be discussed. And you can see that these are discussions and action in progress. But whether that will now, people will now translate it to calling off protests, that's not the position of Congress. Calling for this protest is to call attention on the seriousness of both financial and fiscal insecurity. And you can see from him even agreeing to talk with us yesterday, he's getting momentum. And as we progress, the awareness and consciousness will be created. So I don't see why, people will try to demarcate themselves, not the NLC. The success of any protest is about the number of policemen, DSS, that we are either sent to secure us or to stop us. Either way, that's the success. And we envisage all these things. So if they stop us, that shows that our action, it has effect.
Let's get some insight on the situation of things in the country as we find ourselves, and perhaps as the year is gradually winding down. What exactly are the hopes of the average person? Well, one organization that seeks to be a conscience of the society based on the jobs and the roles and the duty of those who are members of that association is the Nigerian Bar Association. And the president of the NBA tonight, Sir Afam Osigwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is live for us on the program tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Interesting. You saw, you're in Abuja today, and you see that the NLC president led the protest on insecurity. And there are those who will say maybe it was not necessary. The government is doing something already.
I think the protest is a way of saying you need to do more. It's becoming there There's need for all hands to be on deck for us to tackle this hydra-headed monster, be it kidnapping, terrorism, killing people in their homes or driving them out, preventing them from going to their farms. The different forms of insecurity we face in the different parts of Nigeria is getting to such a point that nobody can pretend not to be affected by it. We're all affected by it, whether you come from any of the communities where it's taking place or you have to drive through, or you depend on agro products that come from these areas. In one way or the other, we are all casualties. So that's the way of saying the government should do more, step up its operations to tackle the rising tide of insecurity in the country.
But if you look at it, there are those who will say, maybe on one hand, the pressure from forces who do not like the face of this government is causing the kind of pressure. And there are those who are also being leaned to say there are political influence on the insecurity that we see in Nigeria today. Do you hold the opinion that there are fifth columnists within the society, within the system, that are infiltrating our system, that are also causing more trouble, that are engaging in acts that is making the situation worse?
That's a possibility. Now, when they talked about the general who was killed by ISWAP in Borno State, and they said that the terrorists intercepted his location, it makes you wonder if there was no insider who was able to intercept that. And then when you talk about the allegation that the soldiers were withdrawn from the school in Niger State and the school in Kebbi before the students were abducted, you wonder whether, if that is true, that is, if it's not acts of fifth columnists. But my take is, whatever it is, whether they are politically motivated or not, whether they are born out of people's desire to unleash mayhem on the society, to disrupt the system and make life unbearable from people, or to make money from it, we should tackle it in whatever form. And if there are persons who are deliberately orchestrating this to a political objective, they should be detected, arrested, and brought to trial.
But why do you think it's difficult to name the names? That we've been hearing terror financiers, but we don't know them.
So
is there an encumbrance?
So sometimes I take that with a pinch of salt. If we have them, we prosecute them. And you may wonder why I also take them with a pinch of salt. There's one name that has kept on occurring on that list. And I knew that my office and I personally was involved in the trial of that person, and he was acquitted, and yet his name keeps appearing. So it makes me also wonder whether there may not also be some innocent persons whose names keep appearing there. But bottom line is, if there are persons who are identified as financiers of these terrorist activities, if they are known, and we have credible evidence linking them to that, then they should be made to stand trial, so that if the government has enough evidence to prove their guilt, they'll be able to establish that, and then they defend themselves, and the court will decide. But just keep dropping names, finances of terror, warning them without more being seen to be done, it makes you wonder whether it's not just about throwing up people's names without more being done. If we know them, let's prosecute them.
Does it look like this government lacks or is losing the focus or losing the capacity to be able to fight this on? Because all of a sudden we just see the spike.
So I don't think, I wouldn't say that, but I would also note that the violence, the terrorism is opening up on so many fronts. And I don't have much intelligence background or military background or law enforcement background, but I know that a fight is much more difficult when you have to fight on several fronts. And then you may have to spread your resources thin. And they require a lot of that, both manpower and financial resources and intelligence resources to be able to do that. And I would say this, we need to reorientate ourselves in how we tackle these issues, and also in how we pay more, we're much more interested in securing the return of people who are abducted, and thereby unwittingly enabling more terrorist activities to go on, because there will be more copycats, and these individuals will get money and arm themselves and become much more sophisticated and much more dangerous. So we must, at this point, fine-tune and retune the way we approach these issues and find the right method that works, that ensures that they are taken out and that we don't unwittingly finance them to cause more mayhem.
Is there a legal magic wand that we can employ in solving these insecurity problems? We've been talking about state policing option, constitutional amendment, but it is one thing that we can do, legally speaking, that could take us out of this conundrum.
I doubt if it's a question of law. You need law enforcement, you need boots on the ground, you need intelligence gathering, you need cooperation, you need the people to also understand what this is all about. And and there also needs to be an intelligence communication infrastructure that people can use to safely give information that the state can also use to gather information about what is going on, and then be able to utilize this actionable intelligence to prevent this. And then we should also be able to follow the money and look at some of the financial practices in our society that enables people to do so many transactions off the books and without any trace.
Yeah.
Because that is one of these unconventional ways of moving money, make it difficult to also fight some of this or trace some of the money that may be involved in the financing.
Mr. President, give us an idea about what we just seen and scrolling as a breaking news today. Mr. Aliko Dangote blew the whistle on the Mr. Farouk Ahmed, and a day after, the president fired him. What do you make of this action? Is he a standalone, or you see that the anti-corruption stand of this government is exceptional?
Because I don't know the facts and I just saw the breaking news on your screen, it would be unfair for me to take sides with any of the parties. But sometimes the perception of corruption is sometimes weightier than the actual proof of corruption. And it would be unfair to condemn him. But just to say that the matter is becoming embarrassing publicly for public officers and for the government. And I think the government being decisive in accepting their resignation. I mean, the breaking news I saw said that they resigned. So I would like to say that, look, you're heating up the system, your continued stay is making things difficult and attracting negative attention. I mean, I'm not privy to the meeting. But I also think, and then with the ICPC indicating that they would investigate the allegation, and then I think the president was being decisive. Whether they were encouraged to resign or they willingly resign remains to be seen. But let it also not be that these allegations were used to get rid of a person and then nothing more happens. Let there be proper investigation, and so that the man either clears his name or it is proved that he was actually corrupt or guilty of the allegation against him.
So the resignation should not be allowed.
Targeted to just get them out of office, get the NMDPRA person out of office, and maybe achieve some untoward economic advantage. Let it be seen that this is being done for some altruistic reason, not just so that somebody will have an upper hand in a contest where maybe for regulatory reason there's been a disagreement between a producer and a regulatory agency, and then the kitchen sink has to be thrown into the fray to ensure that somebody is removed, and then they find suddenly that nobody's interested in finding out the truth. People's reputations are at stake, and we need to get to the root of it. It will also help us in planning and in knowing how to address such issues when they arise, and then people will also know where the truth lies in the whole matter.
So the investigation, even this resignation, should not stop.
No, it shouldn't stop. Somebody has been accused of so much, and ICPC has indicated investigation. Fact of resignation or removal, whichever one it is, does not end the matter. Just like we said when Naji resigned. We said there are weighty allegations of forgery, of false statements, that there ought to be an investigation to find out what the truth. Did people present the documents? Were there people who were complicit in clearing a person who ought not to be cleared? It does a lot for us to build institutions, to have a better society so that such things don't happen
again. Nothing has been heard about energy.
So I get that example to show that sometimes such allegations are thrown up to get rid of a person. And once that objective is achieved, nobody is interested in finding the truth or allowing the person to either prove his innocence or for the state to prove the person's guilt. So when we play politics with such things, I'm not oftentimes very excited because it's just a power play thing where one person wants to have an undue advantage over the other, and I hope this is one of such cases.
Are you worried about Mr. Trump's and his government's attitude towards Nigeria? This is another one, a partial travel restriction against Nigeria.
I am worried. I am worried because Trump increasingly shows that he doesn't really want immigrants in the United States. And finding reasons of overstay of about 7.5% of Nigerians who are given visa, which I would think is a negligible percentage, and stretching it, would appear to be finding reasons to justify a position you have already taken, but we want to make it look good. And I don't think that such a policy is good. While as a country, I would understand America's position is trying to ensure that there are no illegal immigrants, that persons who come in lawfully do not overstay or do not abuse their visas. But punishing persons who would want to travel, but for such limited access to the U.S. would also be an unfair thing. It's to find the right balance and also do some kind of profile, find those usually overstay, and find a way of either returning them to their home countries or preventing persons who may fall into that category from gaining visa into the U.S.
But there are also reports that Nigeria has radical Islamic terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and Islamic State operate freely in certain parts of Nigeria, which creates substantial screening and vetting difficulties. And the part of it also is the overstay report of B1, B2, and some other categories of visa.
ISWAP, Boko Haram have been known to be operating since about 15 years now or more, and that shouldn't be an excuse. If there are vetting processes, Nigeria has done the biometric passport, has done everything to be in line, also do all the advanced travel information required by ICAO and other organizations, and IATA. So I don't know what the issue is, and I'm not knowledgeable in this area, but all I'm saying is that there should be a review of the policy so as not to work hardship on innocent persons, students, and other persons who have legitimate and genuine reasons to travel to the U.S. because they will be at the brunt of this policy.
There is a Supreme Court judgment on the matter relating to whether or not the president has the powers to declare a state of emergency and remove political office holder, elected political office holder. As an association, NBA, and as a president, a senior advocate of Nigeria, what are your views on that?
Sean, let me start by saying that it will be very difficult for me to discuss a judgment I've not read. I have seen what has been circulated on the internet and titled summary of the decision in the case. But I am not able to rely on it because it was neither signed nor certified by the court. And I eagerly await this judgment because it's going to tell us a number of things. If you recall, the NBA issued a statement when the state of emergency was declared that the ground reasons did not meet it, they were subjective, and that the grounds as stipulated in the Constitution were not met. And then even if they were met, that the National Assembly could not by voice vote ratify the same. And went on to say that by Section 10(4) of the Constitution, even when we declare state of emergency, the national and the state cannot make laws. That the National Assembly can make laws for the state that you don't need to dismantle the democratic structures. Because Section 10(4) provides to say that provided that the exercise of that power will not authorize the National Assembly to remove the governor and elected officials of the state. So I would like to read the raw judgment of the Supreme Court and see their reasoning, and then as a bar, we will review it to see whether it aligns the understanding of what the executive powers of the president should amount to in a time of state of emergency, because it's very important, because the Supreme Court has said that a governor cannot remove local government elected officials. So we want to know whether, as being speculated, the court says, yes, they can be removed if in a state of emergency. We want to see the reasoning behind them, so that we also declare our position as to whether we agree or not. I mean, we are able to, like Al Gore, say that the Supreme Court has ruled, even though it will be an obiter, because having dismissed the case in any case, the Supreme Court ought not to have gone further into the merit of the case, because it had become academic. What we want to see, what those obiter by the Supreme Court is, they are thinking, they are reasoning, so that we also will be guided in the future as to what we think it is. But like I was trying to say, even though the Supreme Court have decided, if we, in our understanding, think that the aspects of that decision that leave room for worry, we should be able to say we disagree with the court on this, but we respect the court's decision. So, but I haven't read it, so I can't speak on it.
Yeah, but the ratio also will go down, because it will have vitiated earlier judgment that have likeness to other similar issues.
So like I said, Sharon, I can't talk about it, what it will vitiate or not vitiate, because I don't know what the court said. And there are conflicting media reports as to what the court decided. And like I said, what was circulated as summary of the judgment was not signed, so it has no cloak of legitimacy. And I can't rely on it to make any comment. And indeed, summary of a judgment should not be enough for me to make comment on what the court decided. I should read the judgment in its entirety to form an opinion, and then we'll send it out to appropriate committees to review it, and then tell us what we think is right, or what we can agree with or not with the judgment.
Mr. President, before you go, I'd like to know your views about the appointment of this president. the ambassadorial appointment, and some of the issues that have been raised, reputation-wise, and in terms of the procedure and in terms of the timing that it took, what do you think and how it has affected governance?
I will say this to you. Appointment of non-career ambassadors in Nigeria has become a huge joke. Not now, from the return to civil democracy in 1999, and long before that. We don't seem to appoint the right caliber of people most times. And we don't seem to remember that ambassadors are persons who should be just ambassadors, be able to attract trade, be able to find out and market the country within the time, and forge alliances for the government, right? And essentially tell people what the country is about and what businesses they can do with it. And the what do you call it, the hearing process in the Senate left much to be desired. When most of them were asked to take a bow and go, and when we don't know much about it, and those we know, and we thought there should have been some questioning about their views, their stance on so many issues, national unity and all that, did not get asked those questions. And at some point became an altercation between some senators. So I don't know what to expect from the ambassadorial appointment. And that's why most times people go there, it's just a political patronage thing. They go there and they don't project the country in the way they should. They don't protect Nigerians even in those countries the way they should. And consular support is not given to them for fun time because sometimes these persons don't have knowledge of the work they are going to do. So I can't comment on that. I don't know what gave rise to their nomination, but all I say is that such appointments should, if the people don't know it, then they should know that they are ambassadors, they represent the country, and they owe a lot of duty to Nigeria and its people, and Nigerians living in those countries, and that they can drive business and trade and so many good things in the world of our country. It's not for them to be placed on some allowances and they get their own reward for support to government.
Mazi Afam Osigwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Many thanks indeed, Mr. President, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean, for inviting me. I do have a Merry Christmas if we never get to speak again.
You too, sir. Thank you so much indeed.